Hello, everyone, and welcome to another version of How to Write Stuff Better. I'm your host, JoAnn Fastoff, and today we're going to talk about choosing a great book cover. Do you understand design? No? Well, welcome to the club. You're mistaken if you think a book cover is not essential. They say you can't judge a book by looking at its cover. Well, literally speaking, you can. The book cover communicates the theme or purpose of your story in an identifiable or distinctive manner. If 20 authors are writing about trees, well, each cover's got to be different. Gotta be. A book cover design is one of the most critical aspects of marketing a book. A successful book must make a reader feel things rather than tell them something. If the book has maximum impact, then word of mouth is created. And word of mouth is what sells your book. We're talking book covers for self-published authors because in traditional publishing, the traditional publisher will creatively and financially take care of book covers. Now, of course, you have to agree to what they design because just because they create it and they're paying for it doesn't mean you have to like it. Now that many writers are taking seriously the need to package and market their books professionally, professional covers are no longer considered beautiful to have. They are necessary because we're talking about the ever more competitive world of book selling. Once you determine your title, you should move on to designing your book cover. When we talk about creating your book cover, we're talking about you only if you have a design background. We're talking about you working with a designer. Your book cover should send a clear message. You and your designer will work together through revisions to ensure it's 100% suitable for you. Now, depending on your pickiness, those revisions can take a month, a week, or a year. That's really picky. And picky is a good word for saying you can't be pleased. The average time frame is 3 to 6 weeks for cover and paperback. Now, not long ago, there was a general theory that book covers were less critical for ebooks because the item isn't a physical book. The rules have changed, and the rules have changed to apply to bookshops. And they're the same for online retailers. When a person is buying an ebook, that cover is still necessary. And why? Because that's what the buyer sees. Do I understand design? No, but I do understand what my books are about. And on some level, hiring a professional with a design background will guarantee better covers composed of elements like fonts and graphics that are pleasing and tell your story in a way that will hook your readers. Within my Howard Watson Intrigue series, there are aspects of design with which I trust my publishing house. It's only sometimes right the first time. And when you're dealing with a self-publishing house, you have only a couple of times to get it right, especially since you can describe to the designer what your book is about. If you have written a great synopsis, the designer will believe that they know what your book is about, even if they have yet to read it. And in many self-publishing houses, they have yet to read it. One of the reasons is if you already had outside editing, they won't read it, but they will understand your synopsis and what you think that book should look like. Don't compromise on your cover. What's the point of having a great story if your cover is not working for you? You know how they say, she's just not that into you? You want your designer to be into you. Your cover is an extension of the hard work you put into writing your manuscript. So think of the cover as an art in and of itself. Sometimes you have to step back if it's necessary. How will the designer get it right if you can't describe your story? If you're talking about romance and the cover comes back with horses running across the plains, I'm not going to believe that it's about romance. Unless, of course, you and the horse are standing together and you have an arm around his neck, and that's a little freaky too. But you have to make sure that your cover is what your book is about. You want to keep that cover from telling everything your book is about, but you want to offer a teaser glimpse. One of the best gifts you can give yourself as you enter the world of self-publishing is the time to find a cover designer who understands design. You want a designer who understands you and weighs in on the images and their composition, who gets your story. You want a designer who allows you to weigh in on the images and their composition, who gets your story and the message that you want to present to your readers. Although many books are hitting the market, mainly due to self-publishing, an impressive cover can distinguish between a hit and a flop. When your book is a hit, you elevate a book cover designer in the field. A book design must communicate that the pages within are worth a buyer's time and mention. I'll give you an example. Carolyn Keene's Nancy Drew and the Secret of the Old Clock. And this cover captured your attention and communicated the story. Now, if you had downloaded How to Write Stuff Better, my free booklet, you will see the link to Carolyn Keene's Mystery of the Old Clock, because I'm not going to tell it to you. The spine of the book is also so essential, and that's because the spine is all a reader can see when placed on a bookshelf. So if you go to some of these self-publishing outlets and your binding looks like it was made in an 8th grade art class, run. Authors sometimes ruin their stories by adding too much information on the cover of books. The cover must have a hook to keep the reader interested. The cover of the book should deliver the layout of your story. Great designers will treat your writing like a living thing. Don't laugh, they will. And not only will they treat it like a living thing, but they're also going to allow it to speak for itself. The best book covers have one incredible piece of information that attracts buyers. Another example, Akimitsu Tagagi's The Tattoo Murder Case. It's a beautiful book cover. One incredible piece of information is that this woman has a tattoo on her back, the length of her torso. It's gorgeous. It pulls you in and gives you information that should attract you. Another example, Tony Hillerman's The Shapeshifter. The cover images are more than just decoration. They should draw your attention by telling the book's story without you needing to turn the first page. Now let's talk typography. Typography has to do with the fonts, the text, and the lettering. It is merely the art of working with documents to make written language legible, readable, and appealing when it's displayed. How about street signs? Bumper stickers. The type is what pulls you in, right? Here's an industry no-no. A cover should not use more than 2 fonts. Go to a bookstore or library and look at the different fonts on the covers of books. Does the cover have anything to do with the story? It should. Another thing, let's talk about the layout. It doesn't matter that you don't know how to lay out. You don't know how to paint a house either, do you? That's why you hire a professional. But you do know if a professional still needs to do the work of a professional. If you're uncertain about your book's design, you need to refer to books already in the market and see the standard for layout. The font is different. It can be enormous, italicized, and colorful. When you browse some booksellers in your genre, especially bestsellers, you'll notice vivid patterns in color schemes, fonts, layouts, and images. But if you go up against what your readers expect in your genre, your book is not going to be able to reach your readers' attention. Hence, you'll lose sales. You should get huge sales once the cover is in front of the right targeted reader with a great cover, a great title, and reader reviews. I can't guarantee that. I can only ensure what I'm saying. Do you know what's the best cover for your book? You wrote the story, right? If you're writing about romance and see horses running across a plain, does it have anything to do with your writing? Is it pertinent? Is it irrelevant? My first book, The Gordian Knot, is about government intrigue. People have been murdered. The designer and I agreed that there's a bloody hand in this mess, and whose bloody hand is responsible. Now, what's the best cover for your book? It's all about the story. You put so much energy and time into writing your story, and you know precisely the answer. And don't let a designer bamboozle you. If you say no, that's exactly what you want. Tell them what you're looking for. Now, what's a reasonable price if you pay someone to design a cover for you? What's reasonable is what someone is willing to take and you're willing to pay. Isn't that what negotiation is all about? Okay, I hope the information was good for you. But what do you remember? A successful book needs to make a reader feel rather than what? Think of the cover as what? You, as an author, need a cover designer who what? And typography has to do with what? I hope you enjoyed this week. Next week, we're going to talk about collaboration and co-writing. Whoa, that should be a fight. Until then, have a great week.